So there was a big important event, I think, for lots of us who are interested in digital IDs in Parliament yesterday. There was a big debate and we're going to sort of cover it here. In this video we're going to look at what actually happened in Parliament yesterday. That's the 8th of December 2025. It wasn't a technical briefing or a quiet committee session. This was MPs actually reacting to one of the largest public petitions in UK history. So we're going to have a quick look at what MPs from all sides said, including something that a minister admitted, I'm not sure if he was supposed to, and why digital ID has become such a lightning rod issue. So what triggered the debate? Well, it was triggered by a petition opposing mandatory digital ID. It had nearly 3 million signatures. And it was second only to some of the biggest Brexit petitions. It was fourth overall, and I think the three before were all Brexit related. But we won't go there. And so this public pressure forced Parliament to discuss it, even though the government is already developing the scheme. Now here's the actual petition. So it's do not introduce digital ID cards. As I say, it reached nearly 3 million signatures very, very quickly. The government response wasn't overly helpful, I don't think. They just basically said, we're going to introduce digital ID anyway to tackle illegal migration. I can't help thinking that the government really have sort of got this wrong. They haven't read the room properly on this. Because this very brusque response was quite annoying to a lot of people who don't want this to happen. So, but this was the debate anyway, and it was scheduled, as I said. So what happened then? Well, the government made its position clear, and they tried to frame digital ID as just a simple tool to verify workers' eligibility, really. There was one point where the minister, who accidentally or perhaps honestly admitted that the real idea is digital ID is intended to be used across society for lots of other different reasons. They described a kind of single universal identity layer, so covering things like social care, banking, housing benefits. Even somebody mentioned trivial tasks like requesting a bin replacement. Remember, this is supposed not to be mandatory, this digital ID. The government have said it's not supposed to be mandatory, but it doesn't sound like you'll be able to do much if you don't have one. So despite the initial narrow framing, it's clearly a platform that will expand if we allow it to go through. So supporters' arguments, and there were quite a lot of people in favour of digital IDs as well, and the comment was made in lots of other different countries as well. They're quite familiar arguments. They claim a single digital credential reduces fraud, makes verification faster for employers and public sector systems. Some positioned it as catching up with Europe. There's quite a few European countries with digital IDs. I don't see why we all have to copy everything Europe does, but they also insisted that this isn't an ID card, even though functionally it performs the same role. The pitch was generally around convenience and efficiency. Very much like, I don't know if you saw one of my earlier videos about this biometrics and age verification in pubs as well. That was pitched in very much the same way. So there were lots of critics, and there were arguments from MPs about mission creep, surveillance concerns, public distrust, and state overreach, obviously. There was also concerns about exclusion, that elderly people, there's lots of minorities who don't have access to smartphones and computers and internet access, and they'll be left behind. But one of a quite important one, well, two really, if you include the surveillance concerns. The public doesn't trust the governments to look after this data, and there's no democratic mandate, which I think is an important one as well. So a consistent theme here was trust. Several MPs pointed out the government's poor record on securing data. Incidentally, if you go to the digital petition, which I'll put a link in below, you can see a full debate here if you want to. I think it's about 2 hours. I managed to go through it, the debate, and you can get a transcript if you want to just search through it as well. So both those links are on the petitions page. So yeah, the poor record on security data was mentioned because obviously there's been a lot of incidents from NHS to electoral rolls to HMRC incidents where data has just been stolen or pinched or hacked or whatever you want to call it. So creating a central identity system doesn't just increase risk, which of course it does, but it also concentrates risks. If digital ID is compromised, the consequences are much, much wider, and it will than just a single fragmented system. It could compromise all the data we have. It's very, very important, and it creates a single point of failure for 68 million people, effectively. So one of the most important takeaways from the whole debate, I think, was there was explicit confirmation that digital ID is not just a right-to-work tool. Now, a minister openly acknowledged that this digital ID will extend, which contradicts what they've said before. And I think that the minister in question was quite difficult to catch, was Josh Simmons, who's a parliamentary secretary at the Cabinet Office. Anyway, you can search through the transcripts if you want to double check that, because I think that's right. But there has been earlier government messaging which said this wouldn't expand, but yet they're admitting that what we all knew, that digital ID will become a gateway to nearly all public sector services, possibly much more. And this has strengthened critics' warnings and frankly confirmed exactly what campaigners like Big Brother Watch have been arguing all the time, that it's just the thin end of the wedge. So we've highlighted some of the public opposition there. The petition size was used by MPs. It was very, very well attended, this debate. The room was packed out. You can actually see, say, in the video there. And the public trust problems were emphasised. And again, it was expressed, there's no mandate for this. We haven't had a vote on it. It wasn't in a manifesto or anything like that. And of course, it's been tried before, and there was a lot of opposition to it. In 2006, I think Tony Blair tried to introduce the ID card scheme, and they backed down. So our government hasn't backed down. A consultation will come next. This is basically what's going to happen. Government is going to go forward with it anyway. Excuse me. The public consultation has been delayed to early 2026. Costs were mentioned. There was floating around an estimate of 1.8 billion. The government denied that and said it was incorrect. They didn't say if it was less or more. They expect the legislation to be completed later in 2026. This is always was promised last year to be before the end of their parliament. And of course, once it gets implemented, even if another party comes in, like Conservatives, the Greens, Reform, who knows, who have got some opposition to it, we know we won't get rid of this. If the architecture is already in motion, it'll stay here. I'm sure it might be toned down slightly, but there's a lot of tension to it, and there's a lot of opposition in both Parliament and the country outside as well. And it was good to see. It's not going to be easy for them to implement this. So in summary, the debate was revealing, not really because new legislation was passed, but they have admitted that ministers have admitted how expansive the digital ID will become. It's not just a replacement for an NI number and a permission to work ID that you can opt out of, because you won't be able to opt out of all these. If it becomes expansive and covers our whole life, you won't be able to opt out of it, really, not practically anyway. MPs from across parties challenged the risks. Nearly all the parties had some opposition to it. Again, as well, the lack of trust about information governance and the potential for creating some surveillance-style society. And we're seeing this all over the place now. So this debate won't be the end. It's the start of a much bigger battle over identity, privacy, and the role of the state in everyday digital life. So if you want updates on this story and you don't want to follow it yourself, I'll try and summarize these as soon as I find them and try and read up on them. So please subscribe or like or just casually follow the channel if you want. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye for now.